The glass shattered against the marble floor, red wine spreading like blood across the pristine white tiles. My mother's face had gone from pink to white to a shade of purple I had never seen before. My father sat, frozen, his hand still extended where the wine glass had been seconds ago. And there, in the centre of the table at this 5-star Michelin restaurant in Manhattan, sat a metal card with a string of numbers etched into its surface and a set of keys that would change everything. $5 million. My grandfather's voice echoed in my ears, still ringing from what he had just announced to the entire private dining room. The trust fund I established for Ava 25 years ago. If you want to know how a family can steal from their own daughter for decades and get away with it, and how one birthday dinner became a courtroom drama that destroyed an empire of lies, hit that like button, drop a comment below and subscribe, because this story gets absolutely wild. But let me take you back to where it all really started. I was 28 years old, living in a 400 square foot apartment in Brooklyn that cost more than it should and offered less than it promised. The radiator clanked at night. The neighbours upstairs seemed to practice tap dancing at 2 a.m. And my dinner that Tuesday evening, 3 days before my birthday, consisted of instant ramen with an egg cracked into it because I had convinced myself that made it healthy. My laptop screen glowed in the darkness, showing 3 things that summed up my life perfectly. A freelance project deadline in 6 hours, a UX design mock-up that my client would probably request 17 more revisions on, and a credit card statement that was now 12 days overdue with interest piling up like snow in a blizzard I couldn't escape. I had graduated from NYU 4 years ago with a degree in design and a mountain of student debt that seemed to grow faster than my bank account ever could. While my classmates had gotten jobs at agencies and tech companies, I had cobbled together a freelance career that paid just enough to keep me housed and fed, but never enough to feel secure. Every month was a math problem. Rent plus utilities plus loans plus food plus subway card equaled anxiety that lived in my chest like a permanent resident. The phone rang, shattering my concentration. My mother's name flashed on the screen with a photo I had taken years ago when I still believed family dinners might one day feel warm instead of obligatory. Ava, darling. Her voice had that particular tone that made the word darling sound like a criticism. I'm calling about Saturday. Saturday. My birthday dinner. I had been hoping she might forget. Your father made reservations at Le Cygne, 8 o'clock, and Ava, please for once try to look presentable. Wear that dress I bought you last Christmas. The black one. It covers your arms properly. The black dress that still had the tags on it because it cost $800 and made me look like I was attending a funeral. My funeral, probably. Also, your sister is flying in from Aspen. She's been at the most amazing resort. Have you seen her? Instagram 15,000 likes on her latest post. She's really made something of herself with this influencer career. I looked down at my ramen and egg. Stella was 3 years younger than me, and somehow her life looked like a magazine spread while mine looked like a before photo in a home makeover show. I'll be there, Mum. And don't be late this time. You know how your grandfather gets. Grandfather Bill, 82, dying of emphysema but sharp as ever. The only person in my family who ever actually gave a damn. How's Grandpa doing? Oh, you know, the doctors say he's declining. Such a shame. But enough about that. Saturday, 8 o'clock, Le Cygne, the black dress. Don't forget. She hung up before I could say goodbye. I stared at my reflection in the darkened window, seeing a tired 28-year-old woman with circles under her eyes and a student loan payment due in 5 days that I had no idea how to make. This was my life. This had always been my life. I turned back to my laptop and kept working because that's what I did. I worked and worked and worked, and somehow it was never quite enough. Saturday arrived with the kind of cold that made New York feel personal in its hostility. I stood in front of my closet looking at the black dress still with its tags, and then at the simple navy dress I had bought at a discount store for $40. I wore the navy one, a small rebellion that my mother would notice and comment on and that I would apologise for because that's what I always did. The subway to Manhattan gave me 40 minutes to prepare my face, the expression I would wear all evening. Pleasant, agreeable, quiet. I had perfected this mask over 28 years. Lucin occupied the corner of a building in Midtown that probably cost more per square foot than my entire year's rent. The host recognized my mother's name immediately and led me to a private dining room where my family was already gathered. My mother, Evelyn Chen, sat at the head of the table in a cream-coloured suit that probably cost more than my laptop. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. Her disappointment in me was written in every line of her carefully maintained face. "The navy dress," she said by way of greeting. "How creative." My father Richard barely looked up from his phone. He was checking stock prices probably, or emails, or anything that let him avoid actual conversation. His wine glass was already half empty and the appetizers hadn't arrived yet. And then there was Stella. My sister swept into the room like she was entering a photo shoot, which, knowing her, she might have been. Her phone was already out-angled for the perfect shot of the crystal chandelier above the table. She wore designer everything from her boots to her handbag, all of it somehow coordinated in shades of beige and white that screamed expensive. "Oh my God, Ava!" She air-kissed near both my cheeks without actually touching me. "You look so tired. Are you okay? You should try this new vitamin IV drip place in Soho. It's changed my life." "I'm fine, Stella, if you say so." She was already back on her phone, probably posting a story about the family dinner with some caption about gratitude and blessings. I sat down in my assigned seat, the one at the far end of the table, and wondered how soon I could leave without causing a scene. Then Grandfather Bill arrived. He moved slowly using a cane, but he refused the wheelchair the restaurant offered. His lawyer, a thin man in an expensive suit, walked beside him carrying a leather briefcase. This was unusual. Grandfather never brought his lawyer to family dinners. "Bill, you didn't have to come," my mother said, standing to kiss his cheek. "You should be resting." "I'll rest when I'm dead, Evelyn." His voice was rough, damaged by decades of smoking. He had quit too late to matter. "And I'm not dead yet." He took his seat next to me, and for just a moment his hand covered mine. His skin was paper-thin and spotted with age, but his grip was firm. "How are you, Ava girl?" "I'm okay, Grandpa." Liar. But he smiled when he said it. "You're too smart to be okay with this." I didn't know what he meant by this, but before I could ask, the waiter arrived with champagne and the evening officially began. My mother held court talking about Stella's Instagram following, about a charity gala she was planning, about the new interior designer she had hired for the Greenwich house. My father drank steadily and said little. Stella documented everything on her phone, and I sat quietly counting the minutes until I could escape back to Brooklyn. Then came the moment that would split my life into before and after. The waiter had just cleared the main course when my grandfather reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small wooden box, the kind jewellery might come in. He placed it on the table in front of me. "Open it," he said. "Dad, what are you doing?" My mother's voice had an edge to it. I recognised the sound of control slipping. "I am giving my granddaughter a birthday present, Evelyn. Surely even you can't object to that." I opened the box. Inside, nestled in black velvet, were 3 keys on a silver ring and that metal card with the engraved numbers. "What is this, Grandpa?" He stood up slowly, using the table for support, and raised his champagne glass. The entire room went quiet. Even the waiters seemed to freeze. "I'd like to make a toast," he said, his voice carrying despite his damaged lungs. "To my granddaughter Ava on her 28th birthday. I'm not a young man anymore. The doctors tell me I don't have much time left, and I've decided I don't want to leave this world with regrets." "Dad, please sit down," my mother said. "You're not well." "I'm well enough for this." He turned to face me directly. "Ava, I established a trust fund for you when you were 3 years old. $5 million meant to be yours when you turned 25. Those keys and that card will give you access to a safety deposit box downtown with all the original documents." The room tilted. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense. $5 million, trust fund, 25. I was 28 now. "Dad, you're confused," my mother said quickly, standing up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "The medication is making you confused. Ava doesn't have a trust fund. We would have told her. Would you have—" Grandfather Bill's eyes were sharp despite his failing body. "Then perhaps you can explain this." His lawyer opened the briefcase and removed a thick folder, placing it on the table. Inside were bank statements, transaction records, pages and pages of financial documents. These? Betrayals are copies of every withdrawal made from Ava's trust fund over the past 6 years, the lawyer said in a voice devoid of emotion. Every transaction bears the signatures of Evelyn and Richard Chen as co-trustees. The fund, which should currently hold approximately $7 million with interest, now contains just under $200,000. The wine glass fell from my father's hand. Time seemed to slow down the way it does in car accidents or falling dreams. I watched the crystal glass tumble through the air in slow motion, watched it shatter against the floor, watched the burgundy liquid spread across the white marble like something bleeding out. My mother's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Stella looked up from her phone for the first time, all evening confusion written across her carefully made-up face. "I don't understand," I heard myself say, and my voice sounded very far away. "They stole from you," my grandfather said simply. "Your parents have been systematically draining your trust fund for years. That resort, Stella just came back from your money. The new interior designer, your money. The Greenwich house renovation last year, your money. I've suspected for a while, but I couldn't get proof until recently. I'm sorry, Ava girl. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you better. This is ridiculous." My mother finally found her voice high and sharp. "Bill, your illness has made you paranoid. These are obviously forged documents. Ava, sweetie, you don't believe this nonsense, do you? Your father and I would never—" "There are 27 documented transactions," the lawyer interrupted. "Wire transfers, cashiers' checks, direct withdrawals, all authorized with your signature, Mrs. Chen. I have the originals at my office, and copies have been filed with the court as of this morning." My father stood abruptly, knocking over his chair. His face had gone grey. "I need some air." "You need to sit down and explain yourself, Richard," my grandfather said. There was steel in his voice I had never heard before. "Explain to your daughter why she's been eating ramen and working 3 jobs while you funded your younger daughter's Instagram lifestyle with her money. We were going to pay it back," my father said quietly, not looking at anyone. "It was just temporary, just until some investments paid off." "Investments in what?" The lawyer pulled out another document from the briefcase. "According to these records, over $2 million was transferred to an entity called Thorn Ventures. Would you like to tell us about that, Mr. Chen?" The name meant nothing to me then. Later, I would learn that Marcus Thorn ran a semi-legal venture capital firm that funded high-risk, barely legal business schemes. Later, I would learn that my father had been desperately trying to cover gambling debts and bad stock trades. Later, I would learn so many things. But in that moment, all I could do was stare at the metal card in my hand and feel something crack open inside my chest. "Ava," my mother reached for me across the table. "Darling, let's not make a scene. This is a family matter. We can discuss this privately at home." "I don't have a home," I said, and my voice sounded strange to my own ears. "I have a 400-square-foot apartment in Brooklyn with a broken radiator. You told me we couldn't afford to help with my student loans. You told me I needed to learn to be independent. You told me to figure it out on my own." "We were teaching you responsibility," my mother said. "You were stealing from me." I stood up. The room spun slightly, but I stayed on my feet. I looked at my mother, really looked at her and saw a stranger. I looked at my father slumped in his chair with his head in his hands and saw a coward. I looked at Stella still holding her phone, looking confused and worried, and I felt nothing. "I'm leaving now," I said. "Ava, wait. Let's talk about this," my mother started. "Your lawyer will hear from mine," my grandfather said. "Ava, go. Get out of here. The car will take you wherever you want to go." I picked up the wooden box with the keys and the card. I picked up my coat, and I walked out of that dining room through the restaurant, past the maitre d', and out into the cold New York night. I didn't cry, not then. I stood on the sidewalk in my $40 navy dress and felt absolutely nothing. My grandfather's driver appeared at my elbow, an older gentleman I had met a few times. "Where to, Miss Ava?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "May I suggest your friend Maya's place?" Mr. Harrison called ahead. "She's expecting you." Maya opened her apartment door in Brooklyn and pulled me inside without a word. She was my best friend from college, one of the few people who knew what my family was really like. She had been the one who lent me money for groceries when I came up short. She had been the one who let me crash on her couch between apartments. She was the one who believed me when I said my family wasn't helping me, even though no one could understand why wealthy parents wouldn't support their daughter. Now she knew why. "I'm going to kill them," Maya said after I explained everything sitting on her couch with a cup of tea I couldn't drink. "I'm literally going to kill your entire family. Get in line behind me." What are you going to do? That was the question. What was I going to do? For 28 years, I had accepted my role as the family disappointment, the one who wasn't quite good enough, the one who had to struggle while Stella sailed through life on a cloud of privilege. I had believed that I was the problem. But I wasn't the problem. I never had been. "I am going to fight," I said. "I'm going to get my money back, and I'm going to make sure they can never do this to anyone else." Hell yes you are, Maya said. "And I know a lawyer who specializes in financial elder abuse and trust fund disputes. I'm calling her right now." The lawyer's name was Jennifer Kim, and she met us the next morning at her office in Midtown. She was 40, sharp as a knife, and when she reviewed the documents my grandfather's lawyer had provided, her expression went from professional to furious. "This is criminal," she said flatly. "What your parents did isn't just a civil matter. This is fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. You could press charges." "I want my money back," I said. "All of it." "Then we need to move fast. We'll file for an immediate injunction to freeze all their assets. We'll file a lawsuit for recovery of funds. And we need to get into that safety deposit box your grandfather mentioned. Do you have the keys?" Nice. I pulled out the metal card and the keys. "The card has numbers on it. I think that's the account number." "Is a private bank in the financial district," Jennifer said, recognizing the format. "They cater to high net worth clients who want maximum security. Your grandfather was smart. Let's go." The bank was the kind of place that didn't advertise its existence. You had to know it was there, hidden behind an unmarked door on a side street that looked like it might lead to offices or apartments. Inside, everything was marble and mahogany and hushed voices. The keys and card opened a safety deposit box that held my entire history. There were the original trust documents signed by my grandfather 25 years ago, establishing a fund of $5 million for me to be released on my 25th birthday or in case of emergency. There were annual statements showing the fund's growth through careful investments. There were copies of my birth certificate, my social security card documents I had never seen, and there was a letter. "My dearest Ava." It began in my grandfather's handwriting, shakier than I remembered, but unmistakably his. "If you're reading this, then you know the truth about what your parents have done. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I'm sorry I didn't stop them sooner. I kept hoping they would do the right thing, that they would confess and make amends before it came to this. But hope is a luxury I no longer have, and you deserve better than hope. You were always the strong one, Ava. Even as a little girl, you had a sense of justice that your parents tried to beat out of you with their neglect and favoritism. They tried to make you small so Stella could seem bigger. They tried to make you struggle so they wouldn't have to admit their own failures. But you are not small. You are not a failure. You are my granddaughter, and you have more strength in your little finger than your parents have in their entire bodies. Take your money. Take your life back. And don't let guilt or family loyalty stop you. Family is supposed to protect you, not prey on you. They broke the bond when they stole from you. You're just finally seeing the truth. I love you, Ava girl. I always have. And I'm so proud of who you've become in spite of them, not because of them. Your grandfather Bill. I cried, then sitting in a private room at a bank I didn't even know existed an hour ago, holding a letter from the only person in my family who had ever really loved me. Maya put her arm around me. Jennifer gave me a moment. And then we got to work. But as we reviewed the documents more carefully, we found something that made Jennifer's eyes narrow. Look at this. A significant portion of the stolen funds went to something called Thorn Ventures, That's Marcus Thorne's company. Who's Marcus Thorne? I asked. A very dangerous man to owe money to, Jennifer said carefully. He runs what is essentially a loan sharking operation disguised as venture capital. If your father invested your money with Thorne and lost it, he's not just in trouble with you. He's in trouble with someone who doesn't use lawyers to solve problems. So we might not get all the money back. We'll get everything we can, Jennifer promised. But we need to move fast before Thorne realizes there's a problem and tries to hide assets. I'm filing the injunction today. And Ava, I need you to prepare yourself. Your family is going to fight this. They're going to say terrible things about you. They're going to try to manipulate you, threaten you, maybe even try to turn other family members against you. Can you handle that? I thought about my 400 square foot apartment. I thought about eating ramen while Stella posted pictures from 5-star resorts. I thought about working 3 jobs while my parents spent my inheritance on interior designers. Yes, I said, I can handle it. The legal papers were served 2 days later. Jennifer had filed an emergency motion, and a judge had granted a temporary restraining order freezing my parents' bank accounts and assets pending a full hearing. It was fast, brutal, and exactly what we needed. My phone exploded with the calls and texts. My mother, my father, Stella, aunts and uncles I hadn't heard from in years, all of them wanting to know what I was doing, why I was destroying the family, how I could be so ungrateful and cruel. I blocked all of them except my grandfather, but I couldn't block them from showing up at my apartment. 3 days after the papers were served, my mother appeared at my door. I didn't know how she got past the building's security, but Evelyn Chen had always been good at getting what she wanted. Ava, open this door right now, she demanded, pounding hard enough that my neighbours would definitely complain. We need to talk. I opened the door because I didn't want a scene in the hallway. She swept past me into my tiny apartment, her designer clothes and perfect hair looking absurdly out of place among my thrift store furniture and peeling paint. This is ridiculous, Whale, she said without preamble. You're tearing this family apart over money. You tore this family apart when you stole from me, I replied calmly. I'm just the one who noticed. We didn't steal, we borrowed. We were planning to pay you back. When, after I worked myself to death, after I drowned in debt while you lived in a mansion. Don't be so dramatic, Ava. You've always been so dramatic. She paced my small living room like a caged animal. Do you have any idea what this injunction has done? Your father can't access his accounts. I can't pay the staff. The mortgage on the house is due and we can't pay it. You're going to destroy us. You destroyed yourselves, I said. You had $5 million that wasn't yours and you spent it. It was family money, she insisted. Your grandfather gave it to you, but it was still family money. We used it for family expenses. Stella's ski trips are not family expenses. Your interior designer is not a family expense. And whatever Dad gave to Marcus Thorne is definitely not a family expense. Her face went white at the mention of Thorne's name. How do you know about that? I know everything, Mum. I have all the bank records, every transaction, every lie. She sat down heavily on my couch, and for the first time in my life, I saw my mother look genuinely afraid. Ava, you don't understand. Marcus Thorne is not someone you want to cross. If your father can't pay back what he owes, if this lawsuit ties up the money, then Dad should have thought of that before he gambled away my trust fund, I said flatly. That's not my problem. He's your father. Is he? I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Because fathers are supposed to protect their children, not steal from them. Fathers are supposed to help their daughters when they're struggling, not watch them work 3 jobs and eat ramen while living in luxury. So no, Mum. He stopped being my father a long time ago. I just didn't realise it until now. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. She stood up and I saw her face shift from fear to the cold anger I knew so well. Fine. If this is how you want it, Ava. But don't expect to be part of this family anymore. Don't expect to be invited to holidays or weddings or any family events. You're choosing money over family. You chose money over me a long time ago, I replied. I'm just the one with enough self-respect to walk away. She left without another word, slamming my apartment door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I picked up the picture, a photo of me and my grandfather from when I was 10, and felt the tears come again. But this time, they were different. This time, they felt like relief. The next confrontation came from an unexpected direction. Stella showed up at Maya's apartment where I had been staying to avoid any more surprise visits from my parents. Unlike my mother, Stella looked genuinely distressed, her Instagram perfect makeup streaked with tears. "Ava, please," she said as soon as I opened the door. "We need to talk." I let her in because despite everything, Stella had never been deliberately cruel to me. She had been oblivious, privileged, and thoughtless, but not cruel. "Mum and Dad said I have to get a job," she said, sitting on Maya's couch with her designer handbag clutched in her lap. "They said they can't support me anymore because you froze all their accounts. Ava, I don't know how to get a job. I've never had one. I'm an influencer. That's my job." "That's not a job, Stella. That's a hobby Mum and Dad funded with my money." "Your money?" She looked genuinely confused. "Mum said it was family money. She said Grandpa gave it to the whole family." I sat down across from her and made myself speak calmly. "Stella, did you really not know? Did you really think Mum and Dad were just wealthy? I mean, we had the house in Greenwich. We had nice things. I just thought..." She trailed off, looking lost. "You thought what?" "I thought you were just bad with money," she admitted quietly. "I thought that's why you were always struggling. I thought you just didn't know how to manage your finances like I did." The laugh that came out of me was harsh. "You don't manage finances, Stella. You spend them. And the money you've been spending for the past 6 years, that was mine. That was my trust fund. Grandpa set it up for me when I was 3. It was supposed to help me start my life. Instead, Mum and Dad stole it and used it to fund your Instagram lifestyle." She stared at me, and I watched understanding slowly dawn on her face. Then came the tears, real ones this time. "I didn't know. Ava, I swear I didn't know. I thought Mum and Dad were just being generous. I thought they loved me more." "They do love you more," I said, "but that doesn't make what they did okay. And it doesn't change the fact that you benefited from money that was stolen from me." "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "I don't have any money. Everything I have they gave me." "Get a job, Stella. A real one. Learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Figure out who you are when you're not someone's Instagram fantasy." "I don't know how." "Neither did I said, "but I figured it out. And you will too if you try." She left looking more uncertain than I'd ever seen her, and I felt the smallest flicker of something that might have been pity. But I crushed it down. Stella had made choices too. She had accepted the money without asking questions. She had lived in luxury while I struggled, and never once wondered why. Ignorance was a choice when it was convenient. The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks later. In that time, Jennifer and her team worked like machines building our case, documenting every transaction, tracking down every receipt. I helped where I could using my UX design skills to create visual timelines that showed the correlation between my struggles and their spending. It was during this research that we made a disturbing discovery. I was scrolling through Stella's Instagram archive, documenting her posts about expensive vacations and designer purchases when I noticed something. Every major trip, every luxury purchase, every resort check-in corresponded almost exactly with a large withdrawal from my trust fund. Jennifer pulled up the bank records and we compared them side by side. It was damning. March 15th, 2021. Withdrawal of $50,000 from my trust fund. March 16th. Stella posts photos from a resort in Bali with the caption, "Living my best life thanks to the most generous parents ever." August 3rd, 2022. Withdrawal of $75,000. August 5th. Stella posts a haul video showing off designer clothes and bags totaling over $60,000. On and on, it went, a perfect pattern of theft and indulgence, all documented in high-resolution photos with perfectly curated captions. This is almost too good to be true, Jennifer said, but she wasn't smiling. She literally created a public record of the stolen funds being spent. Can we use this in court? Oh, we're absolutely using this in court. But using it meant I had to look at every post, every smiling photo of my sister living my life. It meant documenting every vacation I could have taken, every experience I could have had, every moment that was stolen from me and given to someone else. It should have made me angrier. Instead, it made me tired. So tired of being the one who had to fight, who had to prove myself, who had to document my own victimization in exhausting detail. Maya found me one night staring at my laptop, tears streaming down my face as I looked at a photo of Stella in Paris, the Eiffel Tower sparkling behind her. I always wanted to go to Paris, I said quietly. When I was in college, I had this whole plan. I was going to save up, go for a week, stay in a tiny hotel, eat cheap food, just walk around and see everything. But I could never save enough. There was always something, always a bill or an emergency or something that took priority. You'll go to Paris, Maya promised. And when you do, you'll go first class, stay in a nice hotel, eat at good restaurants. You'll go on your terms with your money when you're ready. I don't even know if I want to anymore, I admitted. It feels tainted now. Then don't go to Paris. Go to Rome or Barcelona or Tokyo. Go somewhere that's yours that they never touched. The hearing finally arrived. We met at the courthouse, early Jennifer, in a sharp suit. Me, in the black dress my mother had bought me, the one I had finally worn. It felt right, somehow, to wear her gift while taking her down. The hearing was held in a conference room, not a courtroom. Mediation, they called it, though. It felt more like a war zone. My parents arrived with their lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit who looked like he specialised in making problems disappear. Stella came, too, looking lost and uncomfortable in business casual clothes I had never seen her wear before. Grandfather Bill appeared via videoconference, propped up in a hospital bed, but sharp-eyed and alert. His doctor had said he was too weak to travel, but he had insisted on being present somehow. The mediator was a grey-haired woman who looked like she had seen every kind of family drama and was tired of all of it. She opened with the standard speech about cooperation and finding solutions. Then Jennifer opened her laptop and started her presentation. "Let's begin with the BAMs," she said, pulling up the first document on the large screen at the front of the room. This is the original trust document signed by William Harrison on April the 3rd, 2000, establishing a trust fund of $5 million for his granddaughter Ava Chen. The fund was to be released to Ms. Chen on her 25th birthday, which was 3 years ago. She clicked to the next slide showing the fund's growth over the years. As you can see, through conservative investments, the fund grew to approximately $7 million by 2022. It should currently be worth over $7.5 million. Another click. This is the current balance, $193,000.42. The number hung in the air like an accusation. "Where did the money go?" Jennifer continued. "I'm glad you asked." What followed was the most methodical destruction I had ever witnessed. Jennifer walked through every transaction, every withdrawal, every transfer. She showed the signatures, my mother's neat cursive and my father's hurried scrawl. She showed the dates, the amounts, the destinations. Then she brought up the Instagram posts. "Let's talk about how we can track the stolen funds," Jennifer said and pulled up a split screen. On the left, bank transactions. On the right, Stella's Instagram posts. Notice anything interesting? The correlation was impossible to deny. Every withdrawal matched a post. Every luxury expense was documented in filtered hashtag detail. My mother's lawyer tried to object. "Instagram posts are not financial records." "No," Jennifer agreed. "But they are time-stamped, geolocated, and publicly accessible evidence of luxury expenditures that coincide exactly with large, unauthorized withdrawals from my client's trust fund. And when we subpoena Ms. Stella Chen's credit card records, which we will, if necessary, I'm confident we'll find her parents were funding these purchases." Stella made a small sound, almost a whimper. My mother's hand shot out and gripped her arm hard enough to leave marks. "Let's also talk about Thorn Ventures," Jennifer said, moving to another section of her presentation. $2.3 million of Ms. Chen's money was invested in this entity. Mr. Richard Chen, can you explain what Thorn Ventures is? My father, who had been silent until now, looked at his lawyer. The lawyer shook his head slightly. I'll explain then, Jennifer said. Thorn Ventures is a venture capital fund run by Marcus Thorn, who is currently under investigation by the FBI for securities, fraud money, laundering, and racketeering. Mr. Chen invested my client's money with a man who is essentially running a criminal enterprise. And when those investments predictably failed, Mr. Chen found himself owing a very dangerous man a very large sum of money. The mediator's eyebrows rose. My mother's face had gone the colour of old newspaper. Furthermore, Jennifer continued, we have reason to believe that Mr. Chen has been threatened by Mr. Thorn regarding repayment. We have documented phone calls, emails, and a particularly interesting voice message that Mr. Thorn left 3 weeks ago, threatening physical harm if the debt was not satisfied immediately. She clicked again, and we heard Marcus Thorn's voice, rough and angry, coming through the speakers. You have 1 week, Chen. 1 week to get me my money, or things are going to get very unpleasant for you and your family. And I don't just mean financially. My father's head dropped into his hands. My mother sat rigid as stone. So let's be clear about what happened here, Jennifer said. Mr. and Mrs. Chen systematically stole over $7 million from their daughter. They used that money to fund a lavish lifestyle for themselves and their younger daughter. They gambled a substantial portion of it with a criminal who is now threatening them. And when their victim, their own daughter, discovered the theft, they attempted to gaslight her, manipulate her, and turn family members against her. She closed her laptop and looked directly at my parents' lawyer. My client is willing to settle. Here are her terms. Full repayment of all stolen funds plus interest and legal fees. That comes to approximately $7.8 million. The Greenwich house will be sold to satisfy the debt. All luxury vehicles will be sold. All jewelry, art, and other valuables will be liquidated. And Mrs. Chen will sign a confession detailing their actions, which will be filed with the court. They will also agree to have no contact with my client for a minimum of 5 years unless she initiates it. That's everything, my father's lawyer protested. You're asking them to give up everything. They stole everything, Jennifer replied calmly. This is them giving it back. And before you think about rejecting this offer, I should mention that the District Attorney's Office has expressed interest in this case. If we can't reach a settlement, I'll be turning over all evidence to the DA for criminal prosecution. Wire, fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. These are serious charges that carry significant prison time. The room went silent. The mediator looked between both parties. I think we need a recess. 30 minutes. My parents and their lawyer huddled in one corner, speaking in urgent whispers. Stella sat alone, staring at her phone but not touching it. Grandfather Bill's face on the screen looked tired but satisfied. You doing okay, Ava girl? He asked quietly. I don't know, I admitted. This doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like winning. That's because it's not about winning, he said. It's about justice. And justice is often ugly and painful and doesn't feel good at all, but it's still necessary. When we reconvened, my father's lawyer spoke first. My clients are prepared to settle, but not under these terms. They're willing to liquidate assets and repay what they can, but demanding full repayment is unrealistic, given their current financial position. They're proposing repayment of $4 million over 10 years. Counter offer, Jennifer said immediately. $6 million with the Greenwich house sold immediately, and the proceeds going directly to my client. The remaining balance paid in full within 3 years, secured by a lien on any and all assets. They also confess to the theft in writing. That confession is sealed, but can be used if they default on payment. And my client reserves the right to pursue criminal charges if they fail to meet any payment deadline. More whispering, more calculating. The mediator watching everything with the detached interest of someone who had seen this exact scenario play out 100 times before. Finally, my father spoke directly to me for the first time. "Ava, please. I know we made mistakes. I know we hurt you. But we're still your parents. 4 million is more reasonable. 6 million will destroy us completely." I looked at this man who had given me life but never really been a father. This man who had stood by while my mother criticized and belittled me. This man who had stolen my future to cover his own failures. "You destroyed me first," I said quietly. "For years, you let me struggle and suffer and work myself to exhaustion, while you lived in luxury on money that was mine. You didn't just take my money, Dad. You took my peace of mind. You took years of my life that I spent in survival mode when I should have been thriving. You took my ability to trust, to believe that family meant something. So no, I don't care if 6 million destroys you. You earned that destruction." My mother finally spoke, her voice shaking with rage. "You ungrateful little bitch. After everything we've done for you, we raised you, fed you, clothed you. That's the legal minimum requirement of parenthood," I shot back. "You don't get credit for not letting me starve. And you definitely don't get to steal from me and then act like I owe you gratitude. You were always jealous of Stella," my mother continued, her voice rising. "Always so bitter that she was pretty and popular and successful. This isn't about money, this is about you finally finding a way to hurt her." "Stella benefited from my money," I said. "She lived my life while I lived hers, but no, this isn't about Stella. This is about you and Dad thinking you could get away with stealing from your own child. This is about consequences." The mediator intervened before my mother could respond. "I think we need to either settle this now or end mediation and let the courts decide. What's it going to be?" My parents' lawyer whispered urgently to them. I saw my father nod reluctantly. My mother looked like she wanted to set the building on fire, but she nodded too. "We accept the $6 million settlement," the lawyer said, "with the payment terms Ms. Kim outlined. There's one more condition," I said, surprising even Jennifer. "Stella gives a deposition on record detailing every expense my parents paid for over the past 6 years. Every vacation, every purchase, every luxury, all of it. If she cooperates fully, I won't pursue civil action against her personally." Stella's head jerked up. "What? Why?" "Because you need to face what you were part of," I said. "Even if you didn't know where the money came from, you spent it. You benefited from my suffering, and you need to own that." She looked at my mother, but my mother was staring straight ahead, her jaw clenched so tight I thought her teeth might crack. "Okay," Stella said quietly. "I'll do it." The settlement was signed that day. The house went on the market within a week. My parents had 30 days to vacate. Stella's deposition took 6 hours and resulted in a document that detailed over $4 million in expenses, all paid for with my money. But the story wasn't over yet. 2 weeks after the settlement was signed, Marcus Thorne showed up at my apartment. I was working late as usual when there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw a man I didn't recognize, tall and broad-shouldered, in an expensive coat. "Ms. Chen," he called through the door. "I'm Marcus Thorne. I think we need to talk." Every instinct I had screamed at me not to open that door. I called Jennifer instead. "Don't open it," she said immediately. "Don't even respond. I'm calling the police right now." But Thorne kept talking through the door. "I'm not here to threaten you, Ms. Chen. I'm here to make you an offer. Your father owes me $2.3 million. You just took everything he has, which means that debt falls to you." "Shen, it absolutely does not," Jennifer said on the phone, having heard him through my speaker. "You have no legal claim to her money." "Maybe not legal," Thorne said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "But I think Miss Chen is smart enough to understand how these things work. I have resources your lawyers don't. I have methods the courts can't stop. And I have a very long memory for people who cost me money." "The FBI is investigating you," I called through the door, my voice shaking. "If you threaten me, it's just more evidence." "I'm not threatening you," he said smoothly. "I'm offering you a business proposition. You pay me what your father owes, plus interest, and we part as friends. You refuse, and well, let's just say your father made his problems your problems when he stole from you to pay me. The police arrived 10 minutes later, but Thorne was already gone. They took a report, added it to the FBI's file on him, and told me to get a restraining order. Jennifer filed for one the next morning, but the damage was done. For the first time since this all started, I felt genuinely afraid. The legal system could protect me from my parents, but it couldn't protect me from a man like Marcus Thorne. "We need to tell the FBI everything," Jennifer said when we met the next day. "Your father's involvement with Thorne isn't just civil anymore. Thorne threatening you makes this a federal case." The FBI agents who interviewed me were polite, professional, and utterly terrifying in their efficiency. They recorded every word, documented every detail, and assured me that they had been building a case against Thorne for years. My father's testimony and financial records might be the evidence they needed to finally take him down. "Will I be safe?" I asked. "We'll do everything we can," the lead agent said, which was not the reassurance I was hoping for. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed in my tiny Brooklyn apartment, listening to the radiator clank and the neighbours upstairs do whatever it was they did at 2 a.m, and I wondered if this was worth it. If getting my money back was worth living in fear. If justice was worth the price I was paying. My phone buzzed with a text from my grandfather. "Are you okay, Ava girl?" I called him instead of texting back. He answered on the first ring. "I'm scared, Grandpa," I admitted. "Marcus Thorne came to my apartment. I heard." Jennifer told me. "Ava, listen to me carefully. What you're doing is right. It's hard and it's scary and it's unfair that you have to be the one to do it. But it's right. Your parents created this situation. Thorne is their consequence, not yours. Don't let him make you feel responsible for your father's choices." "But what if he hurts me?" "Then he goes to prison for a very long time," Grandfather Bill said firmly. "The FBI is watching him now. You have a restraining order. You have lawyers and police and federal agents all working to keep you safe. You are not alone in this, even though I know it feels that way. I just want it to be over." "It will be," he promised. "Soon, and when it is, you're going to have your life back. Your real life, the one you should have had all along. Hold on to that, Ava. Hold on to the future you're fighting for." The future I was fighting for felt very far away that night. But Grandfather Bill was right. The FBI moved fast once they had my father's financial records and testimony. Marcus Thorne was arrested 3 weeks later on multiple federal charges. The news showed him being led out of his office in handcuffs, and I felt something tight in my chest finally loosen. He couldn't hurt me anymore. The house in Greenwich sold for $8 million. After the real estate fees and paying off the mortgage my parents had taken out against it, I received $6.2 million. With the liquidation of their other assets, the total came to $6.7 million. It wasn't the full $7.8 million I was owed, but it was close enough. My parents were also charged with criminal fraud. They pled guilty as part of their settlement and received 2 years probation community service and permanent marks on their financial records that would make it nearly impossible for them to commit fraud again. Stella got a job at a marketing firm starting in an entry-level position. She deleted her Instagram account. When I ran into her 6 months later at a coffee shop in Manhattan, she looked different. Tired, but somehow more real. "I'm sorry, Ava," she said. "I know I already said it in the deposition, but I need to say it to your face. I'm sorry I didn't ask questions. I'm sorry I just took everything they gave me without thinking about where it came from. I'm sorry I got to live your life while you suffered." "Are you working?" I asked. "Yeah, marketing coordinator. It's boring and the pay is terrible and my boss is an asshole, but it's mine. You know I earned it." "Good," I said, and I meant it. I didn't forgive her, not really, but I didn't hate her either. She was just a person who had made choices and now she was living with the consequences, just like all of us. As for me, I moved out of Brooklyn. I got a beautiful apartment in Manhattan, nothing ostentatious, but comfortable with a working radiator and neighbours who didn't tap dance at 2 a.m. I paid off my student loans in full. I paid off my credit cards. I set up a retirement account. And then I started building something that mattered. The Harrison Fund, named after my grandfather, launched 6 months after the settlement. It was a legal defense and financial support fund for young people who had been financially abused by their families. We provided free legal services, financial counselling and emergency funds for people trying to escape toxic family situations. I also started my own UX design firm, but instead of chasing high-paying corporate clients, I focused on non-profits and organisations doing meaningful work. I charged them fairly, but not excessively, and I used my knowledge of what it was like to struggle to create products that actually helped people. I didn't buy a mansion or a luxury car. I didn't take revenge vacations or post them on Instagram. I didn't try to prove anything to anyone. I just lived, really lived for the first time in my life. Grandfather Bill died 8 months after the settlement. He went peacefully in his sleep in a hospice care facility that overlooked the water. I was there holding his hand when he took his last breath. "You did it, Ava girl," he had said the day before, his voice barely a whisper. "You stood up for yourself. You fought back. You won." "I couldn't have done it without you, Grandpa." "Yes, you could have," he said. "You're stronger than you know you always were. I just gave you the tools. You did the work." He squeezed my hand one last time. "I'm proud of you. So proud. You're my legacy, Ava. Not the money, not the business I built, not any of that. You, the person you've become, that's what I'm leaving behind." I sat with him the next day as the sun set over the water, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. His hand was warm in mine, even though the rest of him was growing cold. And when he finally slipped away, I didn't feel sadness so much as gratitude. Gratitude that someone had loved me enough to protect me even after they were gone. Gratitude that someone had believed I was worth fighting for. Gratitude that I had learned to believe it too. The funeral was small. Just me, Maya, Jennifer, and a few of my grandfather's old friends from the business world. My parents were not invited. Stella sent flowers but didn't attend, which was probably the kindest thing she could have done. In his will, Grandfather Bill left me his pocket watch, the one his father had given him, and a letter. "Dearest Ava," it read, "by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I hope I went peacefully and that you weren't too sad. I've lived a long life, made my share of mistakes, and had my share of triumphs. But the thing I'm most proud of is you. Not because you won your case or got your money back, though, I'm glad you did, but because you stood up for yourself when no one else would. Because you chose dignity over peace. Because you decided that you were worth fighting for, even when the people who should have protected you chose to hurt you instead. That takes courage that most people never find. That takes strength that can't be taught or inherited. That takes a kind of fierce love for yourself that so many people lack. You have that love now. I can see it in you. Don't ever let anyone take it away again. Live well, Ava girl. Live freely. Live loudly. Live the life they tried to steal from you, and live it so fully that every moment is a testament to your survival. You are my greatest achievement, Giant. Not my company, not my wealth, not my reputation. You. All my love forever and always, Grandpa Bill. I kept that letter as my wallet folded small and read it whenever I doubted myself. Whenever I felt guilty for what I had done to my family. Whenever I wondered if I had been too harsh, too unforgiving, too cruel. And every time I read it, I remembered that I hadn't destroyed my family. They had destroyed themselves. I had just refused to go down with them. 2 years after the settlement, I was invited to speak at a conference about financial abuse and family trauma. I stood on that stage in front of 300 people and told my story. I talked about the trust fund I didn't know existed. I talked about eating ramen while my sister posted from resorts. I talked about the moment I decided to fight back. And when I finished, the applause was deafening. Afterwards, dozens of people came up to me with their own stories. Adult children whose parents had stolen their identities to open credit cards. Young adults whose college funds had been raided for family vacations. People who had been gaslit and manipulated and told they were selfish for wanting what was rightfully theirs. I listened to all of them. I gave them Jennifer's contact information. I told them about the Harrison Fund, And I told them the same thing my grandfather had told me. You are worth fighting for. Even when the people who should love you won't do it, you have to fight for yourself. It's hard and it's painful and it's going to cost you relationships you thought mattered. But on the other side of that fight is freedom. And freedom is worth everything. Now, 3 years after that birthday dinner at Le Sing, I'm 31 years old. I live in a beautiful apartment. I run a successful design firm. The Harrison Fund has helped over 200 people escape financial abuse and recover stolen assets, totaling over $15 million. I don't speak to my parents. I haven't seen or heard from them since the settlement was finalised. I don't know where they live or what they're doing, and I don't want to know. That door is closed, locked, and I threw away the key. Stella and I have a distant but cordial relationship. We text occasionally, usually just to check in or acknowledge birthdays. She's still working at that marketing firm, dating someone she seems genuinely happy with, living in a small apartment in Queens and learning what it means to earn your own way. I think she's better for it, even if she doesn't think so yet. As for me, I'm happy. Not every day, not perfectly, but genuinely happy in a way I never was before. I have friends who actually care about me. I have work that matters. I have enough money to be comfortable without being excessive. I have a life that belongs to me, built by me, paid for, with my own money and my own effort. I have freedom. And every morning when I wake up in my apartment with its working radiator and quiet neighbours, I think about that girl who ate ramen alone in Brooklyn, who worked 3 jobs and couldn't pay her credit card bill, who thought she was the problem. I think about how wrong she was. She was never the problem. She was the victim of people who should have loved her but chose to use her instead. And the moment she realised that the moment she decided to fight back, she stopped being a victim and became a survivor. And survivors don't just survive. They thrive. They build. They create lives so good that every moment is a middle finger to everyone who tried to keep them small. That's what I've done. That's what I'm still doing every single day. My name is Ava Chen. My family stole $7 million from me. I fought back, I won, and I built a life they could never take from me. And if you're reading this, if you're in a situation where the people who should protect you are hurting you instead, if you're wondering whether it's worth fighting back, let me tell you something. You are worth the fighting for. Your dignity matters. Your peace matters. Your future matters more than their comfort. Fight back. Get help. Protect yourself. Because on the other side of that fight is a life that actually belongs to you. And that life is worth everything. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to stand up to your family or someone you loved to protect yourself? Have you ever had to choose your own well-being over keeping the peace? Drop a comment and share your story, because you're not alone in this. None of us are. And if this story resonated with you, if it gave you courage or hope, or just made you think, hit that like button and subscribe, these stories matter. Your story matters. Let's keep telling them together.